going to start the cam installation. We'll be doing it, the way you guys would on jack stands and, using pump jacks, hand tools, stuff like that. The way it starts, I'm going to come in and remove all these peripherals and probably the engine cover. And then you got to take the front fascia completely off the car to, so when you pull the cam out, you can get the cam out.
Alright, so to start this, we're going to remove the engine cover by pulling upward gently. Then we're going to come back, and there's two 8mm bolts that need to be removed. One on the throttle body, one in the lower left-hand corner there on the rad support, and there's one electrical connection to remove. It's pretty simple, just unclips. And then you're going to pull up and toward the front of the vehicle at the same time to remove the hose off the throttle body. And then you have to disconnect the breather hose, which can be a little difficult. None of this will be reused with the new intake, which you'll see in a later video. Just the tube is all you reuse. And there's the other bolt I was telling you about. And then once you remove that bolt, it should be as simple as lifting up on the whole assembly to remove it. There you go. Alright, so I thought I'd explain the routing on the belt. It starts off, it comes over top the idler, goes over top the water pump, down under the second idler and around the alternator, comes back over top the tensioner pulley, then wraps around back around the crankshaft, and then goes over to the AC pump and then back up around the idler. Now, most people have changed the belt, but just in case, there's a little square on the tensioner that you stick a ratchet in, right there on the very bottom. You stick a ratchet in that to release the belt tension, and that allows you to move it. And here I'll show you how to do that. One thing to remember is you never want to put your fingers between the belt and any pulleys, because if the ratchet would happen to slip out or you would have to let go for any reason, you could pinch your fingers in the belt system, and it does hurt. I've done it a few times actually. But yeah, once you take the tension off, it's just as simple as pulling up on the belt and it all comes out. Okay, so now we're going to remove the coil packs and valve covers. I like to loosen all the fasteners holding the coils first and then undo them by hand, as the threads that the bolts screw into are a brass insert in a plastic valve cover. It's just the way I prefer to do it. You do it how you want. And then the next picture you'll see will be of the coils removed. Alright, so as you can see, the coil packs are removed. There are 16 spark plugs on this engine. The next step is to make sure your wiring harness is all loose so you have access to the bolts on the valve cover, and it doesn't get in the way when you actually remove the valve cover. Alright, so as you can see, the valve cover is removed. It exposes the rocker shaft assemblies. The intakes are marked with an I, and the exhausts just have nothing on them. Next, we'll go about removing those and the steps to do that correctly. Alright, so what you want to do is loosen all the bolts a little bit at a time. This is just going to help keep things from binding, and you also want to keep track of which push rod came out of which bore, and you keep them oriented right so you don't have the part that was on the lifter now on the rocker arm when you go to reassemble it. It can be kind of tedious, and we used a 1/4 inch ratchet with a swivel, which made it kind of tough. You really had to put some force into it to get them off, but just take your time and keep track of your parts. Here's what you're going to end up with after you get the rocker arm assemblies off. like I said, now's the time where you want to keep it clean, try not to drop anything down in the engine. And here's how we organized ours. We took two boxes, put them on each side of the car, away from where we were, and just laid the corresponding push rod across the correct rocker arm, the same way they came out. So that now at this point, you've gone as far as you can go without removing the fascia. Now to remove the fascia, what I did was I went to Edelbrock's website and downloaded the instructions for one of their E-Force superchargers for the late model Challengers. The first couple pages of it are a step-by-step guide on how to remove the front fascia, where all the fasteners are, where the clips are that you have to pop, all that stuff. It really makes it a lot easier and quicker when you already know where the fasteners are going to be. Real quick, I just wanted to show you the clip that is in front of the wheel wells on the front. You kind of have to pull somewhat hard to get the fascia to pop free of this. There are also two rivets on there you have to break too. With the fascia removed, you can start draining the radiator by opening the petcock and catching the coolant in a clean container. The radiator comes out the bottom by removing 4 bolts on either side and unbolting the AC condenser from it. With it removed, as you can see, it gives you plenty of access to the front of the engine to remove the camshaft and also help remove the balancer. Alright, so here I'm just using a basic balancer puller and installer to remove the harmonic balancer off the front of the engine. It works a lot better if you have something to hold the end of the shaft there. Now when you take these off, you want to make sure that you don't let it drop accidentally, or that you don't screw the seal up that's in behind it, creating an oil leak. I always like to check my seal after I've removed it and before I install it, just to make sure that nothing has happened to it, because now is the time to change it if you have an issue with it. Alright, I just wanted to show you guys all the parts you have to remove in order to get at the camshaft in one of these cars. It can be a little overwhelming at times, but if you try to stay organized and have a good manual to help you out, it's really not that hard. Alright, here's the old cam thrust plate and cam phaser. We didn't actually show the removal of the cam as we were trying to be quick about it. There's the new cam installed. Just make sure you're gentle and put plenty of assembly lube on the cam before installing it so it doesn't run dry. Alright, so as you see, the thrust plate's been installed and the dowel lines up with a slot in the cam phaser. When that's all put together right, the timing mark should be pointing straight up. And then the timing chain, to get the slack off, you're going to grab the tensioner with a pair of channel locks, squeeze it together slightly, and use an Allen key in a hole that is pretty obviously seen to hold it in place, so you can have some slack on the chain. Then when you're done, you just pull the Allen wrench out. Alright, we reinstalled the thrust plate, put on the cam phaser. Now I'm showing you the timing marks. What you do is you roll the engine to top dead center on the number 1 cylinder, make the timing mark on the cam phaser point straight up, line it up with the 2 rectangles on the timing chain, and then that should put the 3rd rectangle in line with the dot on the crank gear, which you can't see because the oil pump is still installed here. We actually did take the oil pump off to double check the timing before we went any further. Alright, this just shows you approximately where the keyway should be on the crankshaft, at top dead center on number 1 cylinder. Alright, that's going to conclude part 1. Stay tuned for part 2, where I'll reassemble it and hopefully have the computer back, and we can light this beast off.